get to meet with a lot of HR and leadership people from leadership positions while over the course of our conversations, while we develop benefit programs for organizations, while we actually go about framing business policies for organizations, and while we actually have all these conversations inside closed rooms with people who are at the top of their game, if I'm able to say that, we actually end up in seeing that every organization, and especially HR leadership specifically, they go through a huge amount of there is a huge amount of thought that is exercised while drafting policies and processes that then affect the lives, of their employees. So when we actually see, so much of an effort being taken by people behind closed doors, at least to some extent, we believe that a lot of other people and a lot of organizations also could end up in seeing some form of benefit. Most of us are fighting, battles by ourselves, handling positions, handling a lot of employees. But then there is someone who's actually making a small kind of a change in some other organization, which could end up in being a better practice that most of us could actually inculcate in our organizations and see if we can replicate it into some capacity. So in the spirit of that is the reason we have then embarked on trying to engage in meaningful conversations with thought leaders from the HR world. Today's conversation will largely be focused on a problem that I'm sure that a lot of people in management and in the HR world specifically, I am being given to understand that 87% of the attendees on today's call are from the people function. So you are very, very familiar with the problem we are going to discuss today, which is the Great Resignation. To discuss this, we have with us Dipen Sharma, who is the lead HR VP at Medline, and Manish Kumar, who heads people and culture at Flint. I am very, very grateful to both of you. You both are working in organizations where we see a lot of great practices being imbibed. And in the spirit of being able to have a similar conversation about this, I am very excited about what we have framed as questions for you. Let's actually get the initial question out of the way, which I'm sure everybody has seen in the title when we sent out the invitations for this conversation itself. And I would just like to get a one word or a one sentence answer for both of you. Is all of this true? A very simple question. Is 2022 still a job seekers market, considering the year began with every single organization, every single news article being focused on the fact that employees are leaving in droves from a lot of organizations, and most of them are feeling the burn of what this entire churn is doing to their bottom line. The deliverables getting pushed, projects not being delivered, business targets not being met, simply because we are having a large-scale exodus of workforce from our companies. So then, in reality, considering you both run very different organizations, is it really true? Is 2022 still a job seekers market? Or has the time of the Great Resignation ended? Dipen, I will start with you.
Yeah, so in my opinion, yes, but the number of opportunities that will go through, the number of opportunities that we had earlier in the market for every individual, that will go down as 2022 progresses, mainly because of the fact that, yes, there is a certain slowdown in the US market and other factors which are helping consolidate talent overall in the industry.
Okay. Manish, then I will have to park it the same question to you. Is the Great Resignation still as big as a headache as it was in the first half of 2022? And if not, then it's still, that means also that 2022 is a job seekers market. Does it still remain a job seekers market?
Yeah, I believe, it's still going to be a job seeker market, not just 2022, still 2023, the coming year, we will see the same thing and the same patterns, right? I was just going through a report of Forbes where they said that, in 2022 and 2023, 75% of, the Gen Z will capture the world's working population. So I think right now, what the entire industry is seeing, which is the workload pressure, burnout, even the pressures from the VCs to the founders and to a lot of startups, right? So this is going to continue for the next couple of months.
I am sure that the 87% of the HR professional who have chosen to join this conversation today, I don't think they are going to be happy, a happy bunch after hearing something like that. I think a lot of people are waiting for that pressure of so many people leaving to ease off. But then that is exactly the reason why we are having this conversation. Okay, so you are all people function professional. I oversee business functions. So from a purely business standpoint, the cost of losing and replacing an employee, in my opinion, is colossal. And I truly believe that a better retention practice makes a lot more sense than heavy investment into talent attraction. So if that is truly the case, I'm curious to know that what are the employee retention practices that are currently being adopted in your respective organizations? And for this, Manish, I will start with you.
Okay, it's a really great question. Any founder or be it any HR at the leadership role, right? The first thing that start doing after building the process and policies is thinking about retaining the employees or creating a culture of retention. Now, that's secondary. The first thing that should be looked in is why that policy or retention thing needs to be built, right? If you have a good culture, people generally will not leave you in next 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. They will have a bigger relational things with the company or with the leaders, and they will stay for next 4-5 years with your company, or maybe to 10 years, right? Few things that can really work with any company, right? Be it at a startup level or be it at a mid startup level, could be like, one is your opportunity, and opportunity doesn't mean that if I'm from an HR background, I have to be given opportunity to land only in the HR ladder, right? So it has to be a diversified portfolio that I can be given opportunity on. Could be employer branding, could be in terms of content writing, could be in terms of seeing myself in growth aspects, in the domestic or international region. Second, I would say would be your respect. If anyone sees that the entire culture in the company is very respectful and the employees are valued by their leaders, right? That's second thing. People generally see that, okay, I can stay with this company for longer because I'm being valued. Third thing which comes in the priority list would be money, obviously. If you are paid equivalent to your skills, your growth, your market value, you would stay with the company. If you're underpaid, you will look out. If you're overpaid, probably you will come up and say, hey, I think my role and my comp is not matching, right? But hardly we see any cases such like that. Four things would be learning. I think be it any company. So we have seen a trend, like, with the big company or the big organizations, they have a budget allocated to the learning for the employees. Say, suppose you get a MBA program sponsored by a company, and again, that learning programs comes up with a retention clause or some clauses attached to it that once you're done with the program, you have to stay with the company for so and so. If not, then you'll have to repay the entire amount, right? But in the new scenario, in the new age, I would say the young companies who are emerging right now in last 4-5 years, we have seen a trend that right now this entire annual learning program is not fulfilling the needs of the young folks or the Gen Z people, right? What's working right now is, you as a leader or you as a HR professional start taking that initiative to mentor or guide the person on a customized level. Like, say, suppose for an engineering team, what problems they are facing on a day-to-day basis. Understand the pain point, understand the problem statement, connect with the industry leader that you have in your connect, and then these people will understand, okay, this is something that I'm getting on a monthly basis where my blockers are, right? I'm getting it solved. Same goes with every other department. So I think these four major parameters leaders should adapt or adopt to make sure that there is very less attrition happening in the company and people will retain for a longer duration. And especially the HR one-on-one or founders one-on-one always plays its major role in building that kind of trust and culture thing in the company.
Wonderful. Manish, I think you've set us off on one particular course, and I will of course come to Flint specifically later, because you are taking care of a very, very different kind of a population. Considering that, let me pivot to a different place. Dipen, the same question is applicable to you. in terms of what Medline is doing in terms of, being able to retain, talent versus, actually losing them en masse. In that, I have one very important question to ask, and I'm pretty sure this is a question that a lot of our attendees will also have. Along with all of your points, I would like for you to then, considering you have such a long body of work with such established organizations, you would have seen that the latest trend is something that I have not seen before, at least in my body of work, where people say, I have been able to get 3x my salary. It is something I have never been able to see in my entire career, where people openly say that I was making 7 lakh rupees in Infosys, and I just managed to land a job at one of the big four, and for a 22 lakh package. And being able to say that, and then the HR of that company endorse it so much, and then flaunt it so much, then isn't that an open sign for people to when there's so much money to be made, then why shouldn't I be also getting my share of what is due to me? That sense of feeling comes in, right? Also, this is what I'm worth in the market, and I'm not exploring it. So in the face of just pure-blooded greed, like sometimes that is the bigger thing that sets in, right? Learning, everything else is of course important, but how do you then combat this issue along with combating everything else in order to retain talent?
Right. So I have two parts to this answer, right? One is what generally the industry does and what Medline does or tries to do at least, and then it's working for us at least so far, right? Essentially, if you hire for value, if you hire for integrity, I don't think that people are pure play working on the greed element of it. They look for what is it that you can engage the employee with. So let's say, for example, if you look at the Tata Group, or specifically the Taj Group, 2008, they were struck with a terrific tragedy, right? Taj, the iconic Taj was attacked. It's a Harvard case study of how their employees responded and how most of their employees are still continuing. So that is an insight. What are the kind of employees that you hire? What are the kind of people that you hire? Do you hire all people with chip on their shoulders, or do you hire the right mix of people? That essentially defines retention in a long way. Then how do you kind of empower them? How do you give them ownership? How do you engage them at work? And how do you build that bespoke employee experience, which makes them part of the family more and less, seen as just perhaps one mercenary on the ground? I think that defines that factor. At Medline, what we try and do, and I kind of echo with Manish there, in terms of irrespective of the organizations that we come, respect and connect. That respect to the individual, connect, individualized connect, or for that matter, personalized connect, is something that Medline values a lot. The other element is, while you are having a regular personalized connect, how is it that you can give them, how is it that you can check on their well-being, especially in the hybrid environment? You don't know what's happening around us, right? A lot of us have come post-pandemic, or we don't know. Some of us have been working in a hybrid environment. So what's happening in your life? And it's not just the daily checking in of, water cooler conversations or corridor conversations. Hey, how are you? What's happening, right? What's the latest movie that you watched? It's more to do with what's the mental well-being like, what's the financial well-being like, what's the physiological well-being like. And last but not the least, focusing on the learning element. So learning, I think, comes not from offering people new trainings, new initiatives every quarter. It comes by, and this is something that we at Medline believe very, very, in fact, I was just having this discussion a couple of days ago with some of my senior leaders, that offering a platform for learning is one part of it, but ensuring that they are able to apply those learnings post they complete a certain course or post a certain journey. I think that is more important, because that helps them understand that, okay, you know what, I learned something new, I applied it, and that gives a higher sense of belongingness and ownership and, value rather than anything else.
The Dipen, thank you so much. I think that actually sorts a couple of major questions, because in preparation to our conversation, we also, parallelly reach out to a couple of other HR, professionals and ask them, is this something relevant? So when we actually specifically spoke about, retaining of talent, they of course had specifically asked for this additional question to be asked along with, the general idea of how to retain talent. Which brings me to probably a more a much more serious thing. There is a lot of serious research being done about how a heavily fragmented interview process can actually bring down the effectiveness of the recruitment cycle itself. And subsequently, that ends up in having an effect on the onboarding cycle, which then I think kind of dilutes the entire employee experience in terms of just the onboarding process. I would like to hear your thoughts. And Dipen, I think I will park this to you first, because you have a larger body of work, and you have seen this also evolve probably with time, with people who are, there were organizations during our time which were more famous about, doing a 7-round or a 9-round interview process. So there is so much evolution now just in that particular process. So I would like to hear your thoughts about what an optimum recruitment cycle should be like, according to you.
So ask me, I would not want any of my personal interviews to go beyond 1 round. But then there is no right or wrong number. It depends on the position that you're hiring. It depends on what are the role that you're hiring for. But essentially, the thought is about keeping your recruitment process sharp and then not short. If you are able to use that opportunity too in terms of your employee journey mapping, or for that matter, candidate journey mapping. So we will talk about a lot in marketing. We talk about customer journey mapping, right? Do we look at this perspective where we say that, okay, we will have a candidate journey map saying, okay, what all of the touch points I can engage my candidate in? Can I start right from social media? Can I gamify my entire recruitment process in a way that, it feels more engaging rather than just high and dry, hey, first round of interview, second round of interview, and you keep going on and on. What is the interval time between these engagements? How do you use this time to kind of say, okay, can I educate you more about the brand that you are getting into, the domain, the industry that you're getting into? Or do I just keep saying, okay, here is a standard attachment of the role, the JD, and that JD, when I land up in the interview, is nowhere connected to what I am kind of going to do at work, right? Most of our JDs in the erstwhile roles have been very, very old. They would have been updated when the company started, perhaps. I think keeping that relevant, I think that is more important to me today. And most importantly, what
you are right. I think I'll actually have to also have a conversation with all my department heads to see as to when the last time the JDs were evaluated, because I have a feeling most of our recruitment partners are also very old, right? So when we are just doing a refill of the position, they're like, JD to hai aapke paas. So it's a thing. Maybe it's time we actually, along with reevaluating our workforce, I think it's time we also all reevaluated the JDs we have given, because the type of person we're looking for is different now. Very, very relevant. Thanks, Dipen.
And I think that's the most important part, because you're not just looking for that guy to work in one role, right? You will perhaps look for how he will add value to your overall organization. How will you want him to move into a T-shaped career, something that Manish spoke about, right? How will he branch out into different roles? So looking to hire the person and not just that, that job, right? So I think that is very important. And most importantly, how do you kind of make it more informal? So today, I don't think that I can go the traditional Naukri.com way, where I say, okay, I opened up a position and 200 applications come in. Though most of the job boards are like that, but I still feel that a more informal way, let's say WhatsApp bots, these work better than. Okay, sorry for that noise, but I think WhatsApp bots work better than traditional job boards, is what I feel. So that I think is more important. Would you like to elaborate
about that? It's the first time I have actually heard that WhatsApp bots work better than Naukri.com. Would you like to elaborate on that a little bit?
So it's an interesting thing, and I've kind of applied, or for that matter, I've seen a few, places where they're using it, and it's a very simple thing that okay, when I talk, most of India is on WhatsApp, right? Today, it's better to be connected on WhatsApp rather than applying through the formal mechanism where I have to fill in the same form 100 times. So I think that is a much more easier way to kind of engage with the population rather than any other way.
Okay. Okay. Dipen, this is great. So, Manish, I will pivot to you with the same question in terms of what do you think is an optimum interview process? But for you, I have a particular caveat along with the regular question. What I would like, considering Flint is one of the questions that went from 0 to 10x. It's exploding and there's a very, very young population. So the pressure of actually having to build a workforce of a particular number had to happen in a much more accelerated cycle. Established organizations have the whole, they've grown slowly and they've grown sustainably. And now they do a lot of replacement requests. Somebody has left, so you just need to replace the candidate. So if that is the perspective most organizations are operating with, then what we would like to also understand from you is how do you then handle an interview process which brings in the right kind of candidates? I'm pretty sure even though you have the pressure from an investor to onboard, say 300 people in 2 quarters, which is a huge amount of pressure on the onboarding and interview cycle by itself, then how do you ensure that you find the right candidate for your organization? Because of course, business targets have to be met. Then how do you also maintain that balance in terms of onboarding, say 200, 300 employees in just 1 or 2 quarters, and but also ensuring that it is a quality interview process where you have then found the right candidate?
Right. I think it has a 2 parts. So one is about how we can streamline the interview process, and second is what challenges we face when we are onboarding a good number of people, or when we have a target of good closures to be made in a couple of months, right? So I'll just tell you a use case scenario. When I was working in my previous company, Whitehead Junior, so there it was on an aggressive growth mode, and monthly 5,000, 6,000 people were getting on board. It's not about just offer rollout. Offer rollout were happening like 7,000, 8,000 people, but again 5,000 people ka monthly onboardings were scheduled, right? Now, challenge with when such aggressive hirings happen, right? Obviously, quality decreases, right? The quality of hiring gets down because you have your target to close people rather than focusing on hiring the best culture fit you have, right? But when we have a little target to close, say suppose a decent numbers of positions to close in a month, being the HR person, you can directly talk to the panels, like whatever panels you have, like maybe 3 or 5 panels. You can just streamline what is the 3 most important rounds that you want to conduct, or what are the top 2 rounds you want to conduct, in which you can evaluate the person in and out. Maybe you can join the panel. So first and second panel can join together and take a common interview rounds, and third and fourth panel can join together and take a common interview rounds, right? So generally, in the entire journey that I have seen is on an industry average, 3 to 4 rounds are taken. But right now at Flint, since we are into a space where things are moving very dynamically, which is a crypto space, right? So what we do is, you can't wait for 3 or 4 days for an interview to get wrapped up. So what we do over here is we try to make it a 1-day process, and that could delay. So we just make a particular day where all my panels are available, that candidate is available, and we'll make sure that within 4 to 5 hours, that interview gets sorted out with all the 2 to 3 rounds of discussion. So that is the practice that right now we are doing over here at Flint.
Manish, okay, for everybody who is attending the conversation, I think we were trying to elaborate about this before we started the conversation. Please do leave your Q&As, questions. My team is, collating all of it. What we initially decided is that we will look at the questions only towards the end of the conversation. But if any conversation or any question turns up to be incredibly relevant to the exact answer that is being given, then we will park it to that particular HR leader immediately. Manish, while we are talking itself, Shima has asked that finding the right talent, considering the mindset towards growth, can delay the process of recruitment. How can we expedite that? Because again, I'm sure what Shima is also experiencing is the whole dynamic recruitment cycle where we are under pressure by investors, or our own targets that we have taken on towards the growth of an organization, and we're all under pressure to probably reach a particular number to then be able to deliver on that particular business target. So how then do you go about that cycle? She's asking, how can we expedite that? Because there's some things that delay the process, right? You are telling that you do all the cycles in one day, which I think is a great thing. So, maybe I don't know how all of us can find panelists on the same day to complete all rounds of interview, because our calendars look insane. But it's a good idea to start with. I would love to hear if you have any thoughts. And Dipen, considering you also are experiencing something similar, would you like to add?
So. See, best thing could be if we are already aware that we have three panels to take that particular round for the position, and being an HR business partner or being an HR leader, you can always talk to your three panels and say that, hey, let's build a process, let's build a culture where talents get attracted rather than delaying the process, because at the end it's the internal people who build the culture, right? It's not like HR will build a policy, give it to the team, and team will start executing. It doesn't happen like that. You have to involve your people to build that culture, to build that process, right? And that's where the process and the policies get adopted by your team members. So generally at Flint, what I do is I find out, since we are working for 6 days, I know most of the companies work for 5 days. Candidates are available on the Saturday, right? So we generally make sure that on Saturday, the entire three panels are available, even the founders are available, so that we can wrap it up the interview. If during the midday, between Monday to Friday, if candidate is available, we check on 2 slots from the candidate and then discuss on those 2 slots with the panelists. Hey, can you make your calendar available for this particular 2 slots? And whichever slots gets the maximum, availability, we go for booking that slot for the team.
Okay. I am being told by my team to actually keep everybody informed, because apparently we have had like 20% rise in the number of attendees over the course of the last 15 minutes. So initially, I think a lot of you will still be getting that poll that comes up as to try to understand the mix of, the people attending today's session. According to the last insights we have, 87% of the people attending this conversation today are people from the HR industry. 55% of the attendees have between 5 years to 15 years of experience, out of which 22% of them are between 5 to 10 years and 33% between 10 to 15 years. 15% of the attendees have more than 15 years of work experience. So that is the group of people we are speaking with. Apparently, there has been a sudden rise in also the questions being asked. We will, of course, park those questions to our panelists as and when we go on. One of the questions we already managed to get an answer, answer from. Manish, thank you so much. I think, in line with that, I already am seeing a question that has come up from one of the attendees, which I think will be a very, very interesting question, but I would like to have that answered later, because they are asking what are the latest type of recruitment strategies, apart from Naukri, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, and campus recruitment. But that I'm sure, considering the kind of growth, Flint is experiencing, and that all crypto companies are growing at a scale that, e-commerce companies grew 10 years ago. So I'm sure you are applying a lot of new strategies. We will, of course, want to hear from you. Today, my biggest learning till now has been that, there are WhatsApp chatbots that do recruitment, and I have not experienced that. So that's an immediate learning from a business standpoint for me. Okay, so let's actually come to a question that has been plaguing a lot of people quite a bit. While it's wonderful that, considering that the entire conversation has been about the Great Resignation and the fact that we are finding it incredibly difficult, to have so many people leave us. And in the earlier stated point that the cost of losing and then replacing an employee, while you might be able to retain, like if we do a regular appraisal cycle with a 15-20%, if you were able to retain an employee, somebody leaving us and then, replacing the candidate with somebody who has to come into the company with 50% hike or 100% hike, just the cost of losing and replacing an employee itself is incredible. More than anything else, also the idea of transition, something usually gets lost in transition. There is a space where there is a productivity dip and a whole lot of other things. In case there is a leadership transition, then there is also an idea of expectation setting and a huge gap that gets created there. So I do believe that, the idea of organizations putting a lot of, effort into creating better retention practices instead of, making heavy investments into talent attraction is a good business idea. From a business point of view, it is probably the best, way forward. While all of that is wonderful and organizations are finally having to come to terms that, you have to reevaluate your employee practices. Maybe, do they have a happy work environment? Is learning focused? Do they have a good work-life balance? All of those things. And of course, the money part of it. And companies are evaluating their company culture and everything else. On the flip side, there could also be a danger, and I'm already seeing it happening in a few organizations, where companies are now building employee practices solely from a place of fear. And the fear is largely that we will lose employees. So they are bending over backwards. The whole idea of an optimum work space, because targets are important. We all had examinations, right? So exams in a way just allow you to actually let you know that if you actually studied and you were able to at least understand everything that came with that particular point and period of your education. So the idea of a no stress environment, as far as I'm concerned, and considering I'm a sales head, I will say this, does not work. Then how do we then create an accommodating culture versus or the idea of creating accountable culture, and then nothing will get done. So from that point of view, what do you believe are the great things? And considering you both are in a space where you, interact so much with the rest of the people function world, what are the good employment practices you're actually seeing, not just in India, globally? Because a lot of your organizations also have global footprints and all of that. What are the good employment, employee engagement practices you are seeing at large? Which probably you would like to, build into your organization, but what would you like to, what are you actually looking at? What do you find a great employment practice?
Okay, perhaps I'll take a jab at that first. Right? So employee engagement, I think, is purely limited to, the element where we have the person onboarded now, and what is it that we are doing. And the other element of employee engagement that we've traditionally believed is that, okay, I have a survey result, and basis that I will chart out an action plan and perhaps follow through. So this has been the traditional HR approach. But I think that approach no longer works now, considering that a lot of us are dealing with a new gen, employee. Second, there is an instant gratification that we all need today. Our attention spans have become limited. Perhaps were earlier 5 minutes, now it's become lesser to around 3 minutes or even lesser, right? And with all of that social media and all of these things happening, all of our time intervals are very, very small. So getting that bespoke employee experience and not just engagement, I think that is what is important. And getting that employee experience means that you have to think at the individual employees level and not as a group or as a team. You need to start thinking at an individual level. What is it that you can curate? What is that best set of offerings that you can create? What is that basket of things that you can have in your kitty or in the manager's kitty rather, right? That he or she can deploy so that they can help curate the best employee experience. So for someone, it might be, let's say I'm referring to a working mom or a working father. For him or her, it might be that having downtime in the middle of the day is important. Whereas for someone who is also working mother, right? I mean, if I'm referring to someone who has family responsibility, she would want more downtime in the beginning of the day. And if I'm talking about a student or an aspiring someone whose first job, his or her first job, he would appreciate downtime for an education, pursuit. or he will pursue, he will want to have education courses added to relevant, which may or may not be relevant to his course. I think that is what is employee engagement for me. That is what is creating that employee experience. Someone who is, let's say, for example, I am someone who travels a lot, right, to work. I don't feel like perhaps traveling to work as often because the travel time in a car is just too high. So do I get parking space when I land there in the office? Do I get it at the time that I want when I kind of log in? I think all of these small elements are part of your employee experience. And then they don't necessarily come as employee engagement, but they kind of matter, right? As in when I look at it, I remember the beginning of the BPO industry when we started off. I remember I used to be a mass recruiter in one of these places, and some of these kids, practically class 12 kids, would switch on from one BPO to another because one BPO was offering air conditioned cabs versus another one was not. Right. And then it started then. This is the same generation that we are dealing with now. I mean, where it's the millennial generations, they are looking for such small curated experiences or such small differentiators. And what used to be a highlight yesterday, I mean, it used to be like a benefit. Today is the norm. So that is what is important in terms of employee engagement, rather than, just saying that, okay, or rather employee experience, and rather just saying, okay, I'm wanting to engage people.
Yeah, because this whole idea of everybody is very happy as long as they have, food coupons and work from home every single day is not necessarily in line with, business practices. I understand the joy and the freedom of a hybrid working environment, and for someone who went to office and worked out of an office every day, because I've always worked in finance, from that point to actually experiencing the a little bit of freedom, but also that you almost feel like your work time is optimum when you have a hybrid option. I think options are important. The idea of absolutely not having an option, I think, is a dangerous game. I think that is something all of us have come to realize over the course of at least the last couple of years. Manish, I will not be asking you the same question. In fact, I want to pivot primarily because Dipen brought up a very, very good question. A lot of organizations are, and I think Simon Sinek made it incredibly famous after his, speech that went viral about the Gen Z problem. And I have been in closed cabins with a ton of HR leaders, some of them who have 40 years of experience, which is twice the age of the average Gen Z professional, literally, are battling with the idea of how to. So it's the classic Gen Z problem, but I wouldn't call it a Gen Z problem because every generation has its own challenges and they bring with it their own insights. They are an entire generation. There is a whole generation of our workforce today who are in their early and mid 20s. And they have their own challenges along with working on themselves from a personality standpoint, because they, just a few years earlier, they would have been teenagers. So they're still working out, personality kinks. They're finding their footing in their very first jobs. They are trying to understand this whole business of making money and managing money, especially in in an environment where everything is hyper capitalistic, right? Everyone wants the latest phone and the latest gadgets and things like that, and they also love travel, and the whole FOMO business is attached with it. Then, considering this is the generation we are working with, how then do we? And I'm specifically going to ask you this question, Manish, because you're working in the crypto space. And according to what every data and research tells us, the first people who are willing to actually experiment with crypto, willing to invest in crypto, are not people who have more than 10 years of experience. They are usually the last adopters, people with new money, very young professionals, especially people who have studied technology and who are extremely dependent on technology. They seem to be the first movers into adopting crypto as a mode of payment, and scaling at the pace of lightning, and also as an organization you are growing, and that is the exact set of professionals you have. Because based on our last exploratory conversation, I realize your entire population has an average median age of 23.
Right.
And the same thing goes even for your founders. You have a very, very young team you're managing. So considering that entire workforce, which probably for someone who has 30 years of experience would present a dilemma. Well, that is your sweet spot. Your entire organization is built with 23-year-olds. How do you then deal with this exactly particular kind of generation? What are the things that are, because I think all of us would like to know, what is it that actually motivates them? What are they looking for? Because I would also like to know. Some of them seem to tell, oh, I want 3x my salary. And for someone who, it sounds atrocious telling that you have 1 year experience and you are asking for 25 lakhs. So in my old school brain, it sounds atrocious, but maybe not necessarily for them. They say, I have the ability to, raise an entire unicorn. You don't know who I am. So what am I missing? What are we missing? And how to actually tackle this entire population of very young but incredibly enterprising and confident workforce?
See, first of all, obviously there is a huge difference in the generation, right? So when we were talking, few days back, also we understood that right now the young people who are right now just graduating or they are just pursuing their bachelor's, they have already opened their startups while they're pursuing their engineering in BITS or IIT, right? These people have got so much of info. So because this is a social revolution, right? A lot of people have already got too much of information through some or the other medium, through social media or through learning platforms, right? They have got so much of idea that they started building things from the very early of their career, and they, first of all, they don't have that kind of waiting period that we had. Like we will go for 4 years, 5 years experience, we'll have that exposure and that learnings will come to you. Now this Gen Zs are, you can't stop them. They want everything very fast, right? As soon as they're out of the college, they want to be in growth, they want to be in marketing, they want to be in the product development, they want to be in every department and see how the company scales up, right? And most of the people that are there at Flint, everyone has an aspiration or a passion that, I'm just here to explore, learn things. Next 2 years, 3 years, I'm going out and build my own startup. So that's the thing. Now, coming to your first question that you asked, how we can manage the entire Gen Z population and how to keep that workforce very happy. Now, a couple of things that the current Gen Z are very much looking forward for from any company, be it a startup or from any company, is on the flexibility side. They don't want to be restricted in terms of timings, what time they have to log in, what time they have to log out. They just want that ownership of work to be given to them with a tag, right? Because they are very much understand that this is important for the company, and if I've been given an ownership to do that particular task, or I've been given a ownership to perform a particular target, then I have to do it, right? Whether they come at 12, they come at 1, they leave at 7, they leave at midnight, it's upon them. They want that kind of flexibility to work, and being at that flexibility of level, probably they feel that they're more efficiently performing.
They want to come into the office at 12.
Yeah, we do. So at current, so at Flint,
which is the reason I told you. A sentence like that will make someone who's as old school as I am, my head will explode, because I have been at the office. I run sales teams, so the entire life has been be at the office at 9, because you do your deals when your clients are in their offices, and if your clients are in the offices from 9 to 5. Then you have to go meet your customers and be in front of them at those windows. It's very, very interesting that you're telling that they come to the office at 12.
No, so again, it depends. Like if a finance person is at Flint, right? He knows that bank starts at 10 o'clock, so we have to wrap up our things before 5, right? So in that case, the finance person has to come early and leave early because he has his own limitations. He has to work with banks and other financial institutions. Similarly, with the HR professional, we know that after 7:30 or 8 p.m., if you call a candidate, probably that person would be traveling or would not be interested in taking up a call for interview, right? So for that matter, you have to understand where that parallel lines are to be drawn, where that overlapping hours need to be considered. so that your KPIs are met, your job is done for the day, and you don't get your delay from the. Hello.
We can listen.
Sorry,
we can hear you, Manish.
Yeah. So that's the situation. But people who are working with their own things, right? Like for the sake of front end team, back end team, or the product team, right? These folks need focus work to be done, and that's why they find out, coming little late to the office, avoiding the traffic hours, and again in the evening avoiding the traffic hours. If we go late, it solves the problem for them, and that's why that kind of things are being accepted actually.
Perfect.
So I think that is an essential part these days. And to your point, right, where you can't imagine someone. I think it's just about what I need as an individual, right? And then depends on the role. As long as my KRAs or whatever form, right, of measurement I'm looking at, as long as I fill that measurement form, I kind of achieve my goals. I think it's absolutely okay for organizations to have a system where productivity is not hampered, and then I work across the time zone that I want to, whether it is 12 a.m. in the night or 12 noon in the night, 12 noon in the day. That's completely okay.
I think post-pandemic, everyone has got that sense, for working for 12 hours, 15 hours a day, that everyone has experienced that during the pandemic. And now everyone has seen that during pandemic, while sitting at home, working for 12 hours, still the job was getting done. Now people are working on a hybrid set or working from office, right? It's on you. We have complete trust on you because we have seen working from home, you have been performing well. So most of the companies right now, that's why they are going with either fully remote or a hybrid model, or with unlimited leave plans as well. We don't want to fix you or with a number of leaves that you can take in a year. So I think these are some of the norms, as Dipen said. It's not a luxury or it's not a thing that companies can do right now. It's a norm that needs to be in place when you are looking out to have millennials and Gen Z at workplace.
Perfect. I think one of the anonymous attendees has asked a question. I'm sorry, I'm referring to you as an anonymous attendee, but that's how the question is flashing here. They are specifically asking, what is the panel's view on the current job seeker driven market, and when can we predict the normalization? I am, I'm willing to assume that, you joined us a little later during our conversation. This was one of the first questions that was answered in today's, conversation. And according to our panelists, this is going to continue. This is going to continue, and it will not technically be normalized well into 2023. So this is going to continue for a bit.
So okay. This is the new normal.
Yeah.
This is the new normal. There is nothing called as normalized or will be normalized. This is the new normal that we are living.
Okay, so while we're actually having so much, focus on what to do in terms of employee practices, good employee practices, there are a lot of things that have recently been adopted en masse, in the HR world per se, because everybody is talking about culture, especially in a system where a lot of organizations are rolling back their employees into the office space. And a lot of employee engagement is going on. Is there one of those things that were adopted over the last couple of years that you saw, which you would prefer to not see it anymore? Is there so much focus on what to do? It's also important to also talk about what not to do. Is there an employee practice? And I would happily like it if any of the attendees in our conversation, also in the Q&A, if you can actually let us know if there is an employee practice in your own organization that you have seen that every company has suddenly taken on. Maybe it could be, a complete work from home policy. Is there something in an employee, a practice that you would like to see gone? It's time it's re-looked at.
In the last couple of years, I don't think there is anything that we have done, perhaps, that we should discard now. I think what comes close is perhaps, in unnecessary monitoring by a lot of managers. I mean, and that is the closest that I can think of. The most annoying thing that I can think of is micromanagement, and especially checking on, hey, are you logged on or are you not logged in, right? I mean,
oh yes, because everyone is working from home.
Whether I have work or I don't have work, I mean, you expect me to be online. Yes, it is necessary in certain roles, it's a mandate. Let's say in customer facing roles, I can get a ping or a chat anytime, right? Or I can get a call anytime. That is absolutely fine. But having that balance, finding that balance is something, and that becomes extremely important for managers to have it. And it's easy for us as HR to say, but most of the managers that I see in the Indian space have grown technically, or for that matter, they have grown quickly in the careers. So they don't perhaps understand, and even our value systems as in the Indian society are more driven by control, right? Most of our parents controlled what we did or how we behaved. So we have a tendency to kind of parent or babysit our teams, and then we kind of end up doing that knowingly, unknowingly. Even I would have done that, and I would be guilty of it. But being able to manage that bit, I think is one of the easiest things, and it's not an HR practice. It's something that every one of us do as a manager. Micromanaging is something that you should give up today. Try looking at that, seek feedback if you don't know about it. Look at those patterns, join the dots, and please give it up today if you're still continuing with that.
Brilliant. Manish, I should definitely ask you this question, because the kind of organizations you have worked with are a completely different animal. Fast growing young organizations. You are the foosball beanbag, HR. You're the poster child of being a HR for those kind of organizations. So a lot of employee benefits, in the name of benefits, just a lot of frills and fancies were also given to employees. Is there something you would like to see rolled back?
So I think there were a couple of things that were, the organizations were offering earlier. And right now, if you see, the expectation from the employee has changed with regards to those benefits, be it your insurance, be it your learning program, be it your working hours or working days, be it your, feedback that comes from the thing. A lot of things have changed, perhaps, right? Upgradation of those things have taken place. Right now, after pandemic, most of the working professionals have understood that insurance can't be just for me. It has to be for my parents as well, right? Now, having your parents insured is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And that's what being demanded by the entire workforce. If you go and on the floor and take a poll, everyone would say, hey, I want to get my parents insured, because the times that we have seen, it is more essential. Again, coming up with the learning programs, most of the companies that I have worked who has grown from startup to a mid-sized company, say suppose 10,000, 15,000 people. Again, the learning programs were designed in such a generic way that, it doesn't cater to a specific team or to a specific individual. Now, those things needs to be upgraded and changed by the HR VPs, because they are the people who are taking care of their cohort on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, month-on-month. They are sharing the thematic reports with their HR heads, right? So they are the person who needs to take the entire thematic of the cohort that, hey, for my team, for my vertical, this learning program needs to be implemented. It can't be a generic. If you are, say, suppose if the company has planned for, say, suppose MBA program, executive MBA program or some other learning program, but a lot of conditions get attached to it. So if those conditions are attached, and because of which a 3-month-old or a 6-month-old employee in the system can't avail that program, then HRVP is the person who needs to make sure that he has to solve that blocker. And that blocker can be solved by getting an industry expert through someone's network from the leadership team or from his own network, and get that mentorship to that person, because he can't avail that learning program from the company. Again, if you see the earlier companies or the earlier years, there were Fun Fridays, monthly games that were organized, quarterly outings or yearly outings were done. Right now, if you look at that gap of that period, it's too long for the current generation. Right? They can't wait for 3 months to go for an outing. They need that break every week. So we have to start customizing those things and start looking out for things that is required by our people, rather than what we can give it to our people from the management side. It's always from bottom to top approach that we take over here. Again, on the working hours and flexibility on the working days, again, a lot of company has a lot of biasness, whether we should have 5 days, whether we should have 6 days. Some companies during the pandemic have announced that he will go for 4 days. After pandemic got over, they started with 5 days of working. Right? Everyone said that most of the big companies like Twitter and all, they said they will go full remote. And now again, news are coming that they are calling their employees back, and who are not coming, they're reducing their comp and everything. Right? Again, things are changing with the changing time, and again, with the young folks coming in the startup world or into in the working space, HR VPs or HR leaders need to change the trend that they have been seeing from their career journey.
Okay. I am being told that it's 5 o'clock. With everyone's permission, I would like to actually extend this by 3-4 minutes so that we can actually take at least one, of the, questions that have been parked. I request everyone who still has a question to also, along with your question, leave your email address. So one of the, requests we have made to our panelists is that they can reply to you directly. So we will ensure that those questions are made available to them. In fact, they are on this, they have access to it, and they will write back to you in case you have a particular question. Let me actually, instead of curating it, let me actually directly ask one question, like in chronological order. And Dipen, I'll actually ask this to you because you have, of course, worked for much larger organizations and in your current organization. How many senior leaders, and this is something that personally resonates with me, so I would like to also know that how many senior leaders in your organization showcase their learning initiatives?
So I think
like it's a good thing to say, that we are an organization and a culture that fosters the idea of learning, because the more you know, the better you will do. So, but then how many are being successful, and how many of your senior leaders are actually showcasing their learning initiatives? So, and if you are able to divulge in your, opinion, what are the learning initiatives that you've seen the most focus on?
I think most of the learning initiatives that we focus on in the industries that I have been, and even now, a lot of them are focused on first-time manager enablement or first-time manager grooming, right? Because transitioning from an individual contributor role to a managerial capacity is the most difficult transition that one can do. You are a great performer individually, but you may or may not be able to handle a team. And it's very different from what you would handle in a family, right? It's a professional team that you're running. I think that is one journey that we invest on. We want to be, we want to stay invested on. It is also important because your frontline managers are the ones that actually run the show in the organization. For a lot of your employees, they are the organization. Maybe the HR person cannot, maybe the founder cannot. I mean, smaller organizations, of course, can say hi, hello once a while. But the manager is the one that actually knows what's happening on an everyday basis. So having that capability built is very, very important. The second most important learning journey that is important is the one where you actually learn, where you actually teach people how to stay focused and how to keep learning. I think that is more of there is no specific course or there is no specific learning module that can teach you that, but continuously staying invested in what you want to do, what you want to learn. I think that is second thing that we should focus on from a learning perspective. And we again want to focus on that. So we keep pushing, maybe triggers at to say the least, saying, okay, this is a small learning nugget. Maybe it's an email, maybe it's a video, saying here's a summary of that video. If you want, you can go and click it. So you do these small interventions, and I think, of course, celebrating every learning accomplishment is very, very important. More importantly, the significant highlight is, apart from giving employees what they need, let's say sponsorship for their education fees or anything of that sort, I think giving them space to learn, to that time that, let's say 1 hour once a week to apply your learnings, or find out, for that matter, invest in your learning. I think that is more important than anything else. That's the most fundamental ask that I have for every organization, for every, learning manager or anybody in the team. Are you making space for your learning, and are you making space? Are you making that 1 hour for your team's learning? I think that is very, very important.
Perfect. So, Vedika, I'm just going to check if you are still on this call, because I think I'm going to ask your question next. And we haven't received her email address. So I would actually, want to ask her question. And Manish, I will actually ask it to you because you brought up the initial point, which then follows up into this conversation. The question is, especially you spoke about how employees were working for 12 hours while they were working from home, and considering a lot of organizations are still applying the 12-hour, or rather the work from home module, and everyone talks about how they sit in front of their system directly after waking up at 9 o'clock, and before you know it, it's already 10 o'clock in the night. And I have been on FaceTime calls and WhatsApp calls with family or friends and everybody, and I still see that late into the night, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, because they're at home and they are still in front of their systems. So then, and now that employees are rolling back to the office and, the traffic problem has crept up again, how can employees be motivated to have a work-life balance according to you? And this is a question by Vedika.
Yeah, I think from the beginning of the pandemic till now, most of the companies have been in this problem and employees have seen this kind of problem, right? Two things to it. First, if managers have set the KPIs well enough, right? Understanding to make a sale, 3 days is required. If you understand that kind of ground level work, probably the KPI set for the employee will be justified with the number of working hours, right? Or to be little extended. It couldn't be like for 2 people job, you have to give it to 1 person to save the other, to cut the cost of the company, right? Second, if that is not done in place, if that is not in the place, it's the duty and responsibility of the HR business partners and the HR leaders to make sure that the weekly KPIs are re-evaluated between the employee and the manager to make sure if targets are not met, where are the preventive actions taken or not, what are the corrective actions for it or not, right? And then it has to be implemented. In my previous organizations, we have seen that people were just burning out, saying that, hey, even after working for 15 hours, still there are so much of work pending for the next day. That means obviously they have got too much of workload on their plate. And even if they work for 2 continuous days, they won't be able to finish the backup. That means it's the responsibility of the HR and the reporting manager to reduce the KPI of that person, because this person has got less hours with more comparison to more work. That's one. Second, if you give that flexibility to your employee, that whether you work day, night, or whatever time you feel like, and the employee understand that, hey, I'm the owner of this entire project, I have to deliver it on time. If he has got that sense of ownership and he truly believes in the company's vision, and he says that, okay, if I am continuously working, I've seen the growth ladder companies, people have been going forward. If he has that trust in that, probably he will make sure that he does the job on time. But again, it's on HR VPs and the reporting managers to make sure that it's your people. If you give them too much of work, probably they'll get burnout and they will leave the company. To make sure that they retain with the company for a longer time, it is your responsibility to take care of your people. It's your person. He's giving you that revenue, so take care of it.
Okay. So
I just have one element to add there, okay?
Yes.
And then it's a very 10-second short point. Ask yourself, do you require to be in the next meeting that you actually are planning to have? I think that we have a hell lot of ad hoc meetings. Do we really need those meetings? Or you can do it with an email. Or you can perhaps do it on a collab channel like MS Teams or something like that. I think that will solve 50% of our work-life balance problems, because we end up, when we go to work, we end up having more conversations and less of action. Most of the action is left to the second part of the day, which leads you to 10 o'clock in the night kind of situations.
Perfect. So before I overstay my welcome with everybody who signed up for a 1 hour conversation, I will actually take this time to actually say thank you, Dipen and Manish. You have once again proved the old adage right. One of my oldest mentors consistently told that the most generous thing you can be as a leader is with your knowledge. You probably know more than someone else does. And you can then, by just imparting knowledge, prevent other people from facing the same pitfalls you did at one particular point. So, thank you so much for being so generous with your knowledge and with your insights. I would like to thank everyone who took the time on what I'm sure is a very busy Thursday to actually be a part of this conversation. Thank you so much for your questions. I know that a few people's questions have not been answered. Those questions are going to be sent directly to our panelists, and they will be writing back to you with your answers. Manish and Dipen, I might as well give you a heads up. One of the most asked questions is how do we tackle the problem of people holding on to multiple offer letters and rejecting offers on the last day? So there is an onslaught of a lot of questions coming your way. And thank you so much. I am truly honored to have been the moderator of such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soumya. Thank you, Manish. Thank you, everyone who joined.
Thank you, Soumya.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks, everyone.